People are used to like, I'm just going to go to the doctor. I'm going to get a pill. I'm going to feel better. I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way. If you don't do that, if you don't have that in place, then you can take all the supplements in the world and it doesn't matter. Usually once they do it, they're like, this is amazing. The benefits that they see are huge.
Welcome to the Wiser Than Before podcast, where each episode we'll get a little wiser. I'm your host, Josh Dodds. On this episode of Wiser Than Before, we're talking about what to do when you aren't getting the health answers you need, how frustrating it is when you're given limited options for your health, but you know there has to be a better solution out there, and how our guest got out of that cycle. Lynette Lawton is a nutritional therapy practitioner and co-founder of Vitality Redefined. She used her health challenges as inspiration to go back to school and open a health practice. Now, she helps her clients get off the frustrating health path she used to be on. Lynette shares the 3 reasons behind any health problem, the most effective natural health remedies she uses with her clients, and the keys to drainage, detox, and emotional health. Enjoy. Lynette, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, looking forward to talking with you today. Let's start out. Can you share why you became so passionate about health and the way you help clients in your practice now?
Sure, of course. I feel like most people who come into this industry have had a similar story. I know you have as well, that I was having some of my own health struggles and I wasn't getting any answers. And mine wasn't necessarily like a big diagnosis. It was more of like a culmination of symptoms that I had throughout my life that ended up with me finding somebody, he was actually a doctor who switched to a more natural, he was a medical doctor who switched to a more natural route, and he did muscle testing. So some of the things that I struggled with a lot were anxiety was a big one that has, since I can remember, have always been a very anxious, worrier person. Chronic bronchitis. I used to be a school teacher in my former life. I taught elementary school for 17 years in Massachusetts. And I was sick all the time. And it would turn into, a cold would turn into like a 3-month bout of bronchitis. So that was always an issue, lots of antibiotic use. And then finally, sort of like the straw that broke the camel's back, might be a little TMI for you or our listeners, but I had a lot of female vaginal issues that were chronic and miserable. So that was kind of what really put me into finding a more natural approach, because I was in my gynecologist's office every month for about a year and pretty much my vagina was on fire. Sorry for everyone if that's too much information, but when you're in this space, you get used to you get used to sharing, and she couldn't help me. And she just kept, here's another antibiotic to try. Okay, that's not working. It was a roller coaster or like a merry-go-round of medication. So try this medication, and then that would alleviate one symptom but cause another one. And then, okay, no, try this medication. And, one of the questions I always ask my clients currently is, are you willing to change what's no longer working? And I really felt frustrated with my doctor because I wanted to ask her the same thing, because I finally went in there I'm done. I don't want any more. She was about to write me out another prescription for another medication. And I was like, this isn't working. So let's, at this time I had already started doing a lot of my own. I was sort of self-taught in the natural health space at that point. And I was like, well, what about these things that I looked up online and, these natural remedies, or what about my diet? And she immediately shrugged me off and was like, don't do any of that stuff you read on the internet. It can be dangerous, and your diet has nothing to do with it. And that was kind of my just such a pivotal point. And I was like, okay, this isn't working for me. And so I walked out of her office and I never walked back in again. And at that point, I had a friend who pointed me towards that medical doctor who now did muscle testing. I drove an hour and a half each way to go see him because I was so desperate. And within 2 weeks, the symptoms that have been plaguing me for over a year started to subside. I still had a long way to go, and the first thing he told me was eliminate dairy, gluten, and not forever. I don't eat gluten very much now. I do eat dairy. He started immediately with food and lifestyle changes. And he did customized supplements, like a customized supplement protocol for me. So that was sort of like, and then I was like, okay, well, now we got that under control. Let's start looking at the anxiety. Let's start looking at the chronic bronchitis. And, it's been a journey, and it's ongoing, and, we're up against a lot in our environment. So it's really important to learn how to, consistently keep your detox pathways, your drainage pathways open. And I've come a long way in my health since then, which was about, I'd say, 9 years ago at this point.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. That's an amazing story. Also, don't worry about any TMI issues. This is all health. It's part of the body. It's important. I talk about poop on a daily basis with my clients, and they start off sheepish, and then by third appointment, it's like in all the details. And it's important because it's, a marker of health. All this stuff is. All of it's
important. Exactly. I say the same thing to my clients. Like, you're going to we're not going to be shy here, because I got a lot of questions to ask you, and you're probably going to be uncomfortable around them, but it just doesn't matter because all of this is important. So
yeah, it really is. Like, until I got sick, I never even thought about my poop, and I didn't even know how often I pooped, honestly. And then after going through everything I did, I was like, you can tell a lot from what your poop looks like and how 100%. Often you have bowel movements and all that. And for anyone that's been chronically sick or has a difficult health issue, like, you really come to appreciate having just a normal bowel movement, once or twice a day. And it's something like I took for granted. It just worked for 20, 25 years. And then, all these little things, like, you really, really can tell you a lot about yourself and your health. And I'm all about finding, like, now having gone through what I did, like, finding things a little earlier. Like, there are little signs that pop up, but I never knew to pay attention to them till it got way down the road. So I feel like all that stuff is helpful. But that's just a great story, because like, so many people know something's wrong. Like, they're in pain, they got symptoms, and then kind of have a similar experience to you, keep going to their doctor. But you at some point were just like, hey, this doesn't make sense. There's got to be a better way. And was it natural, just serendipitous timing that your friend mentioned this doctor, or were you searching? How did it come about?
I had been kind of searching, and I had already, at that point in my life, again, I feel like I was really, like, self-taught before I actually, like, went back to school to learn a lot of these, like, holistic practices. So I'd already started experimenting with some natural remedies. My diet was already really clean. And yeah, she was actually a fellow teacher friend of mine, and we were next door to each other. And we quickly learned that we were both, like, really on the same mindset in terms of health and wellness. So she told me about him. But it was really, I was living in Boston at the time. So he was, like, only about an hour north of me, but, Boston traffic, and I'd have to go after school because I was a teacher. I couldn't, like, go in the middle of the day. So I spent an hour and a half oftentimes. And now we know we can do all this remotely, which we can probably get into later. But, it was game changing. And that was what I ended up going back to school to learn how to muscle test. And, it was so freeing and validating to finally have someone who was listening to me and could actually, because this is something that, I don't think a lot of people ask. And, and I'm not anti-Western medicine. If I break my leg, I'm going straight to the emergency room, right? Like, but they're good at emergency care and not preventative care or root cause care, right? So it's like, I don't want the medications, while they can help symptoms, aren't doing anything to get to the bottom. And that was one of the things I kept asking my doctor, like, why? There has to be a reason. And this was before I even, like, was doing what I do. Like there has to be a reason, something like your body doesn't just start. Your body knows what to do. You just have to give it the right tools. So your body doesn't just start to dysfunction. There's a reason behind. And that's where I was frustrated with my doctor. Like the why. Why is this happening? What's the root cause? And it was like, oh, like when she was like, your diet has nothing to do with it. I'm like, okay. I mean, we are not on the same page here. Like, of course your diet has something to do with it, and your diet might not be enough to fix it if you have some real issues, but you can't, I always tell clients too, like you can't out supplement a crappy diet either. Like your diet, there's dietary lifestyle changes that have to be in place. Supplements play a role, everything plays a role, but it's like a dance of getting it all, doing all of the right things together.
Yeah. It really is a trick because there's so many things to choose from, right? So then prioritizing or narrowing down it is the dance or the trick. So along with that, you mentioned like the reasons behind what was going on. What were some of the reasons you found, or if you just want to share what some of the common reasons are you see in your practice with other people who come in with just these health issues that aren't well explained and they aren't getting great answers for that make sense, or maybe they're just getting something like you were offered ongoing treatment or management, but eventually that can get old itself as well.
I always say, like, from what I've learned and what I experienced, both with myself and my clients, is that there's 3 reasons usually. Like, I don't care what your diagnosis is, there's 3 reasons behind it. And I know this is a very like high level, like simplified view, but they're either toxins, pathogens, or negative emotions. And all 3 were the case with me. So, I'm a big believer in parasite cleansing. I think they are very overlooked in Western medicine. The parasites make the biofilms, these little nests that protect them. They're holding on to 6 times their weight and other pathogens and toxins. So we got heavy metals, and people think, oh, well, I haven't traveled abroad or I haven't been to an underdeveloped country. Therefore, especially doctors will be like, oh, you don't have to worry about parasites. But, I have a dog. She licks my face sometimes. She sleeps in the bed with me sometimes. I grew up swimming in lakes, which is a huge source of parasites. I eat sushi. I eat pork. I walk outside barefoot. The fact that people believe they don't exist in the United States is kind of comical because, like, why would they just be elsewhere? So that's one reason. There were so many, like, even like something really interesting about my bronchitis in my lungs. Once I started parasite cleansing, a lot of these symptoms subsided. But it was really interesting because when I got muscle tested, my lungs never came up as a priority, which was so interesting to me because I was coughing all the time. I chronically clearing my throat, always coughing, but it wasn't really. So then you look at like we talk about drainage pathways. You can't do any of this detoxing unless you're pooping all the time, like we talked about, unless your liver and your gallbladder are working. It's kind of like that bathtub analogy where if you're really, really dirty and you get into a nice clean bath and like detox your body, like scrub off all the grime and dirt, you're not just going to leave the bathroom and leave all that dirty water sitting there. You need to pull the plug. And it's the same with our body. It's like we need to pull the plug of our body so that we can get all of this stuff out. So it wasn't really until I started cleaning up my liver and gallbladder always came up as a priority, not my lungs. And it wasn't until I really started cleaning up my liver that my lungs started to clear up too. So it's like, I learned in school, like anything can cause anything. So it's really just about removing what doesn't belong. Another interesting thing about the negative emotions, which a lot of us are carrying via trauma or, whatever, is that I used to get bronchitis all the time. It wasn't unusual, but 9 years ago, my oldest brother passed away, which was really devastating. And, obviously a very hard time emotionally for me. And about a month after he died, I got bronchitis. And it lasted forever, like the longest bout of bronchitis I've ever had. I mean, I was seriously coughing for like 6 months. I could not kick it. I couldn't get over it. And I later learned that you hold grief in your lungs. So, that was just like a negative emotion piece, which can actually cause physical symptoms. And a lot of people don't really put those things together. So sorry, that was a very long-winded way of saying like, it's anything like you have to get rid of the pathogens, the bacteria, the fungus, you have to get rid of the toxins, the heavy metals, the glyphosate, all of these things that we're inundated with. And you have to check your nervous system and your emotions too. That's why it's really just educating people that there are a lot of tools we can use to get our body in a functional state and that, we can thrive. And so, because a lot of people are just surviving.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I love that answer. You gave people so many different ideas or paths to go down. And we'll circle back and go into some of them in a little more detail, but it's a lot better to have these options to look into than just saying, okay, here is, the next pill you need to take. And at best, it's going to manage it a little bit. Or, someone like you, it's like, yeah, I've been through this cycle month after month. Like I want something different. Like these are places that, people may have heard of some of them, often not all of them. And yeah, it just gives people new paths, new routes to go down. I love it. We're going to get into some of them because I know if people haven't, everyone's on a different spot in their health journey. Like people have really been down the holistic functional route for a while. Some of this might be like, yeah, I've heard of it. Some people are, like you said, they're like, don't even consider parasites or, the emotion one is, I find some people are totally on board. They're like, yeah, I could totally see how that would affect my health. And then other people are like, no way.
Yeah.
No, absolutely no chance. So, I mean, if you're okay with it or whatever you're willing to share of the emotions, what would you recommend to someone that thinks that might be part of their health issue or something they're carrying with them?
Yeah. Lots of things. I actually just had a client call this morning with someone she was very teary-eyed and weepy when we chatted because she has a lot going on emotionally. So I did a little bit of emotion code work with her. So if you guys aren't familiar with that, it's basically just a way of releasing negative emotions in the body. So, you can have actually, I have my book right here. So there's a book written by Bradley Nelson. So anyone could read this book and, learn how to do this. But, finding a practitioner, things like mind, body, spirit release is another way of having a practitioner help you release negative emotions. I really like that too, because I did a lot of talk therapy, back in the day. My brother who passed away had struggled with alcoholism for years. And it was a really, some tumultuous years in my family's life. And so, I saw a therapist who I loved at the time. But sometimes for me, it's like talk therapy only gets me so far. Then I feel like you need to do some like energetic balancing, releasing these negative emotions, releasing trauma. So mind, body, spirit release is great. Emotion code is great. I love EFT tapping. So for those of you who aren't familiar with that, it's just using different like pressure points on your body, your face it's really simple. Like, you can pick something really specific, like even though I am anxious about whatever, like money, let's say, like, even though I'm anxious about my finances, money is abundant, it's all going to be okay. So it's basically, or like, even though I'm stressed about my symptoms, like even though I'm struggling with chronic headaches, like I'm going to figure it out, it's going to be okay. So it's sort of just like bringing those negative emotions to the surface and then letting them go.
And you're tapping pressure points on the face.
Yeah, you're tapping while you're doing it. There's tons of YouTube videos on it. It's like a really, that one helps me quite a bit because I'm definitely like a spiral, and worrying about the future. And just kind of keeps you in the present and helps you bring, sometimes it feels counterintuitive to like, that whole like saying the only way out is through. Like you have to feel the emotions in order to let them go. So, and a lot of people just push them down. And that's what can cause a lot of physical symptoms in the body, I think. So there's lots of different, meditation, prayer, if that resonates with people. I personally love meditation. I love doing yoga, grounding, getting outside and putting my feet on the earth. So all of these things that can help like regulate your nervous system and just, bring those emotions to the forefront, let them go. Journaling. I've never been one who's big on journaling, but I like to give people, in my practice, I have a business partner, Jill Zavada, and we share a lot of tools with our clients about regulating their nervous system and doing some emotional and mindset work. Because if you don't do that, if you don't have that in place, then it's almost like you can take all the supplements in the world and it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like it has to be a whole body solution, like mind, body, spirit. All of it has to come together to really help people heal.
Yeah. I think it's so true and important. And like I'd heard that before in the past, and I was like, yeah, makes sense. And I'd done a lot of, exploring the emotions too, as I became more and more aware, like, hey, this is probably some kind of issue for me. Like to some extent, I'd done talk therapy, I'd done more embodiment based practices, and it wasn't the easiest thing for me to get in there, so like I understood the concept, but then to actually, like you said, feel the emotion or just get into my nervous system subconscious, there's like a lot of digging.
So, it is, it's hard work too.
Yeah. And even with all that, then when I was really sick, I had a practitioner who was really, really big on nervous system. Like that was a big part of what we're doing. And like I said, I was familiar with the idea. I'm like, okay, well, I've done a lot of that, but I'm open to doing more. And I ended up doing some neurofeedback and went back home and my reading speed just doubled. Like it was insane. I started flying through these books. I'm like, I don't even know how slow I was reading. Like, you just get used to symptoms and whatever on non-optimal functioning. But I was just cruising through this book. I'm like, oh, that's amazing. And then like 6 months later, I did another round and then came back home, and my energy for the first time in years, like I felt like a normal person, I could do some laundry and work for the day and not be collapsing at the end of the day. And when that happened, then that was like a lightning bolt. I'm like, okay, wow, this nervous system, that's like a huge piece, because nothing else I experienced moved things that as fast for me as that. Like a lot of the lifestyle things, maybe some biohacking things, the supplements, like all of that was a little bit more step by step. Like there were some times where something moved a little faster, and I had it felt like a little bit of a leap. But the nervous system retraining was just like I stepped into a different world over a period of a week. And I'm like, all right, this is legit. But I've also done a lot of practices and training on my own that I found difficult or frustrating. I did a lot of, I won't say a lot. I explored with the tapping and did more like vagal toning exercises for the vagus nerve, but it's a similar idea where you're calming the nervous system. And I did it because I believed in it and because I experienced that jump with the neurofeedback. But a lot of times I was like, is this even working? Or, after 1 week, 2 weeks, it becomes it felt like a bit of a slog till I changed my mindset about it. But anyway, when you are giving these options to your clients, is there any patterns you see that help people pick the right thing for them, or the people who tend to have success and maybe speed up their healing journey that you see working?
Yeah, I think it's whatever resonates, right? Like some people are really into the tapping. Like the nervous system is huge because, we've got two parts of our nervous system, our fight or flight, and then our rest and digest. So our fight or flight is like they both serve a purpose, right? Our fight or flight, if we're about to like get up and give a big speech in front of an audience, we're going to be kind of in that fight or flight, like the adrenaline's going, or if we're in literal danger where we're like running from something like a bear, which obviously doesn't happen to many people these days, but
hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. That's when we're in that fight or flight. So it serves a purpose, but we also need to be in that rest and digest state a lot, like when we're eating, when we're sleeping. So people who can't sleep at night, they're probably stuck in this fight or flight state. So when our body is stuck in this fight or flight state, we can't heal. So it's just, that's all part of like releasing the emotions. I feel like calming your nervous system is a big one that you're seeing a lot on like social media and in this health and wellness space these days. So I like to give options. So sometimes, I'm a very spiritual person. I'm not personally very religious, but some people are, so it's like, sometimes I'll say like, does prayer resonate with you? Does meditation resonate with you? Does tapping resonate with you? We're starting to incorporate a lot more like nervous system regulation exercises. So, simple tools for them to use to help them like yawn or sigh to show them like, okay, you're coming back into that parasympathetic state. So we've been starting to do a lot of that. And just, their mindset in terms of like, how are you starting your day? Right? Like the first 10 minutes of the start to, you're like, are you waking up and scrolling on your phone or are you waking up and going outside to put your feet on the earth and get some sunlight in your eyes, simple. So it could be that too. Like this morning, I came home late from vacation last night, which was amazing. And I like to do a meditation in the morning, but I've slept in late because we didn't get home until late. So for me, it was more important to get to the beach with my dog and put my feet in the sand and have some sunlight in my eyes. So I skipped my meditation and I did that. And I try to do that before I get on my phone. So, I like to give people tools and whatever resonates with them, but we try to give them. So in our root cause program, we give our clients homework at every session. So sometimes it will be like, I gave you 3 options to help you calm your nervous system or to help, release some negative emotions. I want you to experiment with these 3. We're going to talk about them the next time we see each other and see like what resonated with you. Because you're right, like meditation doesn't resonate with some people and prayer doesn't resonate with some people. And, everyone just has to figure out what works for them. So we like to give people options and then they'll see, we'll talk like, I tried this, I was into this. But I think giving them homework is important. Like there has to be an accountability piece when you're working with a practitioner. Because some of these things, like you said, can be hard. Like, and some you're just like feel so arduous. And I don't know if you ever listened to Joe Dispenza, but he like makes jokes sometimes. Like people are like, I meditated 2 days in a row and nothing happened, and it's like, of course, this is all like retraining your subconscious mind, and it takes some work. And so you have to find things that kind of that resonate with you. So I think it's important to have some accountability too. And I think that's the benefit of a lot of these people who have been trying to like heal on their own, which is what was happening with me. I needed a practitioner to guide me through, and I'm still working on my emotion. I love I'll do like mind, body, spirit release any day. Like I'm working with a practitioner to help me with my emotions and my anxiety, which is much improved, but it still rears its ugly head every now and again.
Yeah. It's never, it's health is more of a way of being, right?
Sure.
I used to think of it in such black and white terms, like, oh, I'm healthy. I wake up every day and, feel like my normal self, unless I get the flu or, some bug. And then there's this just one clear reason.
Right.
But if you go through a chronic health issue, like what you did, or some of what I did as well, then it doesn't work that way. What we find eventually after enough pills, we're like, there is no magic pill, and start to look deeper. And even, when I was at my sickest, I was like, oh, I can't wait till this is over. I can't wait till I'm my old self. But I don't know if it was a life lesson I needed to learn or what, but the way it went, it was kind of, stepping myself out of that low place. And it took long enough that I really changed. I wasn't in such a rush, like things have to be perfect. And like there's a good aspect to it too, right? Because I started to have more confidence and just belief, like I know how to affect my health and build my health. And 100% part of that is with a practitioner, somebody outside myself, because I can't see it all and I can't do it all. But that used to be like draining or kind of defeating idea. And now it's like, yeah, it's just part of who I am. I want to not just survive like a lot of healthcare is set up for in the US anyway. It's kind of like, well, if you're not dying or have like a serious disease, we'll just keep you breathing. And if I want something different than that, like, okay, I'm on board with making some of these part of my life. And then it became more, it's not always enjoyable, but a lot more relaxing and enjoyable because I wasn't just trying to sprint out of it and be done. So it just, health doesn't really work that way. Even though we get a different picture.
Yeah. And I feel like I still have times where I'm like, why am I getting headaches again? Or you know what I mean? Like it's not like I'm perfectly healthy now. We're also, it's like a whole other conversation, but we're up against a lot. We are exposed to a lot of toxins on a daily basis. So that's why sometimes, even there's like a lot of wars, I feel like even on Instagram, like some people are like, oh, we don't need to detox. That's what our liver and kidneys are for. And okay, they're not wrong, but our livers and kidneys can't keep up with what we're exposed to today. So it's a balance, it's just trying to teach people to reduce their toxic load, eat in a way that fuels their body, regulate their nervous system. Supplements, yes, do play a role. I don't think they're everything, but it's like, it's all of it together. So you have to look at the body as a whole. And just like the doc, if I go to the doctor and the doctor prescribes me a medication, it's not like, or, if I have a headache and I take Advil and that helps my headache, I didn't have an Advil deficiency. That's not what caused my headache. Maybe I have a magnesium deficiency, or maybe my liver is struggling, or maybe my liver is struggling because it's riddled with heavy metal. It's just, you just have to it's like an onion. You just have to keep peeling back the layers. So, it's just important to, even with supplements, like I think even in the natural health space, it's not like, okay, well, you're deficient in magnesium. Here's some magnesium. Okay, but why are you deficient in magnesium? It's like you have to keep going. You can't just like out supplement these, that can be more of like turn into a more allopathic model with supplements too, just like treating symptoms where we really want to get to the root causes.
Yeah. So at some point it's, stops coming back or being an issue, because if you just cover it up, then it's just a matter of time till that pops back up.
Exactly, for sure.
Hey there. I hope you're enjoying this conversation. But you know what? I want to bring you even better content in the future. One way you can make sure that happens is by hitting the follow button on your phone in Apple Podcast, Spotify, or whatever app you prefer. Now, if we're being honest with each other, you and I both know there's no way you're going to do this later. So let's take 7 seconds right now, and I'll walk you through the process. Pull out your phone, unlock it, and open Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the listening app of your choice. Now search for Wiser Than Before Podcast and hit follow. In Apple, that's the plus sign in the top right corner. And in Spotify, it's the button with the word follow just below the logo. That's it. You're all done. Doesn't it feel good to cross an item off your to-do list? Thank you for doing that. By hitting that follow button, you are actively bringing better guests and content to this podcast. Now, let's get back to the show. So you mentioned earlier, I know you're big on this in your practice, the drainage piece. Can we talk a little bit about that, a little more in detail? Just for anyone who's not familiar, can you just cover what the overall idea of drainage is? I mean, I love the analogy you gave with the bathtub and the dirty water, and it'd be a good idea to drain that out at some point. But can you just give an overview, and then maybe we can cover some of the specifics, like maybe the top 2 or 3 things you focus on in your practice or you see most people needing?
Yeah, this is my favorite topic. I'll be concise, but I could go on all day about this. So basically we have there's drainage and detox, and those are two separate things. So, detoxing is like pulling the pathogens and toxins from your organs and cells of your body, but you need a place for them to go. So you can't detox unless your drainage pathways are open. So there's like a drainage funnel starting with like the colon at the bottom. So if your colon is backed up, which constipation is one of the number one complaints that I'd say I get in my practice. I feel like, and it's, you brought this up earlier too, and people like don't even know. I'm like, oh, do you poop every day? They're like, I don't know. I'm like, well, you got to pay attention. Like, I got to know how many, like, what does it look like? Does it sink? Does it float? It's like all of these things are so important. So if your colon is backed up, then you're not detox. If you're not pooping, you're not detoxing. If you're not pooping at least once a day, you're constipated. And if your colon's backed up, your liver and bile ducts and gallbladder are going to be backed up, which play a huge role in digestion, and a lot of people don't realize. So, your liver has over 500 functions in the body. It produces bile. The gallbladder stores it, releases bile after, the food leaves your stomach to go into your small intestine, and that helps remove toxins from your body. It helps you digest fats. It helps you absorb fat-soluble vitamins. So all of that is so important. So if one part of this funnel gets blocked, then the next part's going to get blocked. Then your lymph system is going to get blocked in the cell. It just keeps going up. So you have to, before you detox any pathogens, toxins, parasites, anything from the body, you need to have a place for them to exit. You need to be staying hydrated. So you're peeing. You need to be pooping. You need to be sweating. So all of these are all really good ways. Like, you need your bile to be flowing. And then you can start to eliminate. So this is why a lot of people will do, parasite cleansing is kind of like all the rage all over the place these days. And people will do a parasite cleanse without opening up their drainage pathways. Like, if you try to do a parasite cleanse and you're not pooping every day, you're going to have what's called a Herxheimer reaction or die-off symptoms. So it's when these parasites start to die, they release all the other junk that they're holding, and you're not getting them out of the body. You're not going to feel good. So we rarely start anyone on parasite cleansing right off the bat until we've done at least a month of drainage opening first.
What does that drainage look like?
The first order of business is pooping. You got to be pooping. So my two favorite pieces for that are coffee enemas and castor oil packs. Both of those can help get you pooping. I also have supplements that I use to get people pooping more regularly. I like to use them just initially, just to like get things moving. And then the goal is always just to use those as needed. I have several supplements that I use for people to poop, but coffee enemas can, increase the natural peristalsis of your colon. So basically like that, like constricting of your colon that makes you go to the bathroom. It can help clean out your colon, but coffee enemas also help thin that bile between the liver and the gallbladder. And a lot of times with constipation, it often goes back to the gallbladder. So if you've had sluggish bile, your gallbladder could be filled with gallstones. And then the bile, I don't know if this is the best analogy, but the bile is kind of like a natural laxative. So not in the point where you're like, running to the bathroom, but that bile is helping get everything out, well. So coffee enemas are my number one for constipation. And they have so many other benefits. I really recommend those to, unless there's a contraindication. So I do have a couple of clients who've had pieces of their bowel resected. In that case, I probably won't have them do coffee enemas, but I pretty much have every client start doing coffee enemas if they're willing. A lot of people are a little hesitant in the beginning, so it takes some coaxing. But to be honest, usually once they do it, they're like, this is amazing. And, maybe not like while you're doing it, but the benefits that they see from it are huge. And I actually we had one client who had we saved her from having her gallbladder removed because she was on the brink of having her gallbladder removed because it was filled with gallstones. She was having severe gallbladder attacks. So, we had a multifaceted approach, but liver flushes and coffee enemas were one of them. And she just had her third baby. And when she got pregnant, when she told us she was pregnant, she was like, do I have to stop doing coffee enemas? Like, she was like, and we were like, yes, you do. She can't do those when you're pregnant. And she was bummed, like she was disappointed. So, and it's, people get I don't want to say addicted. That's not the right word, but they see the benefits of them. And once they like rip off the Band-Aid and do it, they're like, oh, A, that wasn't that bad. And B, I feel better. So.
Yeah. I mean, that's the idea. I like earlier in life, you couldn't have paid me to do an enema or anything, putting anything up my rectum. But when I felt bad enough, then, that all goes out the window. I'm like, I don't care. I want to feel better. If there's a chance this will help, I'll do it. And I never got to the point, like some people really do get into them, where it's like a daily thing. They love them. They really credit them with the coffee enemas with, being a huge part of them feeling better. I, unfortunately never got to that point, but it is a powerful tool. And as I just started learning about them, or like enemas in general, I started learning about how, there's Russian hospitals that won't even accept patients until they've had an enema, because it clears out so many problems right off the bat, because something toxic is just festering in the colon. Do an enema and then boom, it saves a bunch of trouble on everyone's side. So, but I also remember my former self who was just like, that was such a foreign idea and seemed so crazy. But my experience was very much like what you said. Like after doing them a couple times, like this really isn't a big deal. And yeah, for how much better I could feel is like, wow. So you mentioned contraindications. One other thing, I have a friend, doctor, acupuncturist, who he was dating a girl in acupuncture school, and I think she was a naturopathic doctor, but she got really into coffee enemas, and then just wanted to encourage him to do it, and he did it, and he said it basically made him incredibly sick. So coming back to this drainage idea, now he didn't know about drainage then. I don't even think he really knew that exact concept when he was telling me the story. But so he was like anti-coffee enema because he that caused some health issues for years. And I was kind of wondering, like, why is this so good for so many people? But then this happened to him. But the idea of drainage really explains it, because his drainage wasn't open, and he does a powerful therapeutic remedy like a coffee enema and just release tons of toxins from the liver or gallbladder and the bile, and it didn't have the exit routes that it needed to go. So I could totally understand why you're so big on drainage in your practice and with your clients.
Yeah, you have to be, because otherwise they're not going to feel good, and then they're going to think what you do doesn't work. Like I started working, and that's happened before. Like I always say, like healing, it's people just want to get better. And that's where people are used to, like, I'm just going to go to the doctor. I'm going to get a pill. I'm going to feel better. I'm going to go see Lynette. I'm going to get some supplements. I'm going to feel better. But like, I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way. People have been sick for a long time. So I always say, like, when you're on that like healing trajectory, like you want to be on like a slight incline moving up. However, in that incline, there's also going to be some dips, right? So it's not easy. You just have to learn like a little bit each. Like I know you and I have been at this for years, and we both tried, both you and I were desperate. Like, I'll try. You want me to stick something up my butt? Let's go right now. I will go do it, because I just am desperate. I want to feel better. And, you just have to, it can feel overwhelming, but just like take a little bit at a time. Like start with putting your feet on the earth and some sunlight in your eyes in the morning. And it doesn't have to be all at once, but you are going to have some like good days, some bad days, some dips in the road. But it's all about, starting with your mindset. Like in our root cause program, we have educational modules, and their first homework module is always mindset. Like, get ready to heal. Like, I am so happy and grateful now that I have my sticky notes all over my, I have them on my mirrors and in my bathroom, and believe that you can heal. Take one thing at a time. And, some people are like, I'm not ready for a coffee enema yet. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to force you to do it. I am going to keep telling you that I think it can benefit you. Let's start with a castor oil pack. That's really simple. You just put some castor oil in your liver and gallbladder, tie it around your waist, and go to bed. That is a place we can start. So, you just have to learn. And this is why I think it's helpful to work with a practitioner, because it can be really daunting to navigate through all of the information and a lot of conflicting information. Some people are like, don't do coffee enemas, they're bad. And I'm saying do them, because it's hard to, it's all about bio-individuality. Everybody has to do what works for their body at that time.
Yeah. Yeah. And that part is really confusing, right? Because for each person, there's going to be a path forward, and certain things will work for you and certain things won't. And, your best friend or the person you follow, it might be, kind of flip-flopped. And that you, with your hand kind of showed this gradual, increase of health that is ideal to be on. I used to feel like my health path looked like a bumblebee, just up, down, all around. I'm like, this is just out of control.
Right.
But same thing for me. I finally found the right practitioner after many tries. Now, many helped, right, and helped make some progress. But then it would get to a point where I'm like, all right, we've gone as far as we can go, and I could just see I needed something else. But I found kind of the practitioner who really helped me make moves in it. It was just that. I mean, there's, of all the things to choose, we were just setting a course with just a few of them, but then sticking to it. And that was really key for me, because when sometimes even you pick the right thing and you start to feel poorly, your body will detox. It is moving some toxins. So you have to make that decision. Is this progress, or am I going backwards, or am I unnecessarily hurting myself? And that's tough to know if you haven't experienced it before. And then even for yourself, it's tough to make that judgment, because you feel like crap, and your thoughts aren't always as clear as they would be outside.
And that's true. I mean, I have to make that decision for myself, and even my business partner Jill and we always joke. I'll just go for it. I'm like, I'll take all of it, and just like, I'm not. She's a very sensitive detoxer, where she'll start a new supplement and she can feel it right away. Whereas I'm like, I could take 4 of those and I'm fine. So, but there have been times where I'm like, I think I need to I don't feel great, but I think it's just my body moving things out, and I'm just going to muscle through. And with clients too, we have to decide, this might just be a couple days of you not feeling the best. Do you want to scale back? And that's why muscle testing is really helpful, because we can decide what their body needs. But do you want to scale back? Do you want to take a break, or can you just push through, and then kind of let them decide, and just understanding that it's just their body's way of getting the toxins out, which I'm sorry, but we just have a lot of.
We do. That was the thing that was tough for me to wrap my mind around. And it's something I try and break down for clients and teach, and even did a solo episode on this recently. But just this idea that we are exposed to more toxins than we realize, especially in the modern world. And it's tricky because you don't feel it happening. I mean, most people don't walk into a toxic chemical spill, right? So it's just subtle. It's like me picking up this plastic thing for the house from Amazon that's all synthetic materials. Getting takeout food in a plastic carton with plastic silverware. It's just bit by bit, it's adding up, and then the body can take a lot. So it adds up for a while. At least that's what I felt happened for me. I had a number of the things you mentioned that as underlying causes, but just on the toxin chemical side, it's adds up, and the body doesn't show it or kick out all the symptoms for a while. And then even the initial symptoms, like for me, I just kind of plowed through it. And a lot of people do because they don't want to complain, and they got life to live and responsibilities to handle. And so they're not going to stop for a little fatigue or a little headache. But unfortunately, you take that far enough and then a lot of people end up crashing. I ended up crashing too. And then from that point, that's what really taught me how much the body can, we can absorb, and the like journey that it is to get rid of it. Cause it was, didn't matter how fast I wanted to go, didn't matter how fast I wanted to push it. It was, it was step by step. I felt, I think I mentioned it earlier, but every month I felt like I was learning a new lesson in humility and slowing down, until I, accepted it, and then everything moved along more smoothly.
Right. And now, now look at you, like you're thriving. You're doing this as like your career now. You want to help other people on this similar journey. And, what you have so many tools in your toolbox to know, because it's not like you're going to just get better and feel better forever. Like all of us are going to have issues here and there, or something else is going to come up. But like, just understanding your body, how it works, and knowing what tools to give it, I think is so powerful. And I think that's, that makes me feel good. Like I don't need to go back and see my doctor who just wants to give me medications. Like if I break my leg, I'm going straight to the emergency room. But otherwise I know what to do myself. I have lots of practitioners in my circle. Like I get to meet wonderful people like you. Josh and I met when we were at a muscle testing workshop, which was amazing. So, I rely on a lot of those people in my circle to help me. Then, same. And I'd love to help them too. So just learning what your body needs is really powerful.
Yeah. No, yeah, it really is. It's like a life skill that would make sense to teach ourselves a lot earlier. But I do think the world has changed a lot, and people's health in general has changed. So even a couple generations ago, like think of your grandma or grandpa, like most people kind of, would just go through life and have decent health, and it certainly wouldn't have the level of, crashing in your 30s, or the higher rates of breast cancer we're seeing even in people in their 20s, like some really crazy stuff going on. And so it's, in the past, it wasn't as necessary. Like you could go about your life and maybe you wouldn't have perfect health, but people could live their lives and be okay. And now people are experiencing these a lot stronger symptoms where it's like you can't just push through. Like life comes to a screeching halt when it gets strong enough. So I totally agree. Like these are just skills. These are, knowing yourself, knowing what you need, what your body needs. And it is a learning process. That's why I think we should start really early with people. But I agree with you. You do get confidence, and then okay, I can handle it. Like one scary thing is just thinking of your health being a mystery, right? Like, oh, I hope I don't wake up one day and get cancer. Like I used to think cancer and these certain other health conditions just popped out of the blue. Like, oh, if you get unlucky, right? For a lot of people, I mean, if I smoke 3 packs a day, then yeah, I get where lung cancer comes from. But a lot of people with these surprise diagnoses, or MS would be another one. It just like hits people out of the blue. Now, knowing what I know now, and some of the things you've brought up and we're talking about, like the toxins, these underlying causes that can start to creep up and fill up in the body over time, that can cause things to go haywire. So knowing how to address those and feeling confident doing it and being able to keep up with it, to me, that stuff it's even more important to me now than like hardcore workouts. Like I used to be an athlete and be in the gym all the time. And I used to think this, being in shape is health, like physical fitness. And now it's just totally reversed. Like I can do that stuff if I enjoy it and want to, but a lot of the stuff we're talking about today is much more, in my opinion, much more important for like health and longevity.
Yeah. And sometimes that can work against people too. If someone's like adrenals are shot or their nervous system is out of whack, and then they're doing like these really high intensity workouts, it's like, not that those are bad, but okay, maybe for now you just need to take walks. and get outside, and being able to listen to your body. And another thing you said that was so interesting too, and I think that this is really important to note, is like, so yeah, there are these big diagnoses like, oh, I've been diagnosed with cancer or MS or whatever, but it's like most people I can't tell you the amount of clients I've had the initial consultation with, and they're like, no, I'm okay, but I'm constipated. I have headaches a lot. I'm really bloated after every meal. I'm not sleeping well. It's like they say they're okay, and then they come with this like long laundry list of symptoms. And I'm like, well, then you're not really okay. And that's when it's important to start paying attention, because those all have underlying causes, right? And we want to start addressing those symptoms before we get to, those big diagnoses. And those symptoms are so common, but they're not normal. Like so many people are like, oh, well, I'm bloated after everything I eat, but I've always been that way. So that's just the way my body is. Like, no, there's a reason. Like your body's not you're not supposed to, look 3 months pregnant after every meal you have. So there's a reason for that. So what is it? So I just think that's really important for people to realize, like all of these little symptoms add up, and it's important to address them when they come up because they aren't normal. They're common, but they're not normal.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's very easy to get used to them too. As you're talking, it's reminding me of my laundry list of symptoms, but you have them for so long. And I have clients like this too on the intake form. Like one client I was talking to, I'm like, well, you put these 5 things are your priority, but you didn't put anything about digestive health. But that was, you spent half the appointment talking about it. She's like, oh yeah. I was like, have you just had it so long that, it just doesn't even seem like something that can improve or something that, is able to? She's like, yeah, that's exactly it. And I got so used to some of my symptoms too. That's the tricky part, because like I said, some of them at the beginning, you can just keep living your life, right? So there's like,
yep,
whatever. But that is the red flag that's saying, hey, you can handle this now, or if you let it go too long, you're going to be handling it later, and it's not going to be so fun.
It's going to be harder and harder. So the other thing too is that by the time you get a symptom, even just something as simple as bloating, there's already been some level of dysfunction happening in the body for a while, like before the symptom even shows up. So those symptoms are like, hi, it's really important for you to pay attention to me right now. This isn't like a simple, like those symptoms are important, and they're like the little red flags of your body saying, let's take care of this. So symptoms are actually a good thing.
Yeah. I think it's so important for people to hear, because when I think back to like how I thought about it, I think a lot of people go through a similar process. Like at first, it's like, I got a life to live. I'm busy. I got bills to pay. I've got kids. I've got work, right? So just don't have time for it. Then the symptoms start to get a little worse, a little louder, a little more noisy. So then they'll go to their doctor, right? And if the doctor doesn't have, like, people don't understand the framework that their doctor might be working under, and it can be different. Like the doctor's job's to diagnose, and the tools that the doctor has may be medication to manage, because he gets 5 minutes to speak with you, and he can't fix 3-4 decades of life or whatever it may be. So I had someone message me after a podcast recently, and she was saying, yeah, I was in the doctor's office, and I'm bloating is actually the example. She's like, I bloating, and told him about it, but he said all my tests came back normal, so it must be in my head. I was like, don't ever let anyone tell you it's all in your head. But also, there's no point to go be met at that doctor, because they're just working under a completely different paradigm. So like that's not part of what he's taught, what he's thinking about. Yeah, depending on the doctor. So it really helps to realize who am I speaking with? What is their paradigm? What are they going to help me with? How do they approach it? And these are questions you can ask, your doctor or any provider. But I mention it because that's how I see the cycle of the symptoms get stuck. They're too busy for them to get a little worse. They go to get them checked out. They don't go to someone like you who's been through it and understands it and knows how to start reversing it. So they feel like not much can be done. I think I went to 5 or 10, not just doctors, but other health specialists saying like, hey, I got this weird fatigue going on. Hey, I'm feeling like I need a vacation all the time, even though I took one last month, and that's so unlike me. And they'd all listen and give me a protocol or next step, but it basically was a slow downward spiral. Now, at the time, I was just like, am I complaining? Am I being, sensitive about it? But now looking back, I can see like those were all the signs. But I empathize with people because they like try and do it. But if you don't go to the right person or the right person for you, then it seems like, oh, there's nothing to be done. And because I could just imagine as people listen to this conversation, like if their health isn't totally tanked, like they're not as much pain as you were or I was, it is hard to get ourselves to change, to be like, does that really need to be a priority? Do I really need to, go through the lifestyle changes that are they just feel annoying. But you can, if you're getting those signs, it's like you can either do it early or do it late. And it's a lot more work to do it late.
It is a lot more work. And, and I've had plenty of clients come to me and that I hate to say this, but sometimes I know in our initial consultation, like I've even had like gone so far as to like been, 15 minutes into an initial consultation. And I said, if this isn't a good fit for you, I will give you your money back right now. And we can, and she was like, no, this, I want to do it. I want to change, so we went through the whole initial consultation. I put her on a supplement protocol, gave her some lifestyle tips, and then I never saw her again, like I knew she wasn't there, and that doesn't mean she's never going to be there. But like what I am asking you to do, or my clients to do is make some changes. Like I said this earlier, like, are you willing to, like, it's one of Jill and I's first questions that we ask to people. It's like, are you willing to change what's no longer working? So like, you don't want to change this, this, and this. Okay. How do you feel? Terrible. So, okay. So how is this, and this working for you? Right? Like we don't ask them to do everything all at once, but yeah, there are some we give them homework assignments. We want to look at 5 days of their food log at every appointment that we see with them. We want to help them reduce their toxic load. We have videos on hormone health and toxin exposure and parasites. And, we have like educational modules. So it's a commitment for them. Like, we don't want people to have to work with us forever. We want to teach people what we know to take control of their health, and have like one thing that we're actually super excited about that's hopefully going to be launching soon is we made like a little home apothecary guide, or we're almost done with it, where it just has like, sinus infections, like because how many times, and you probably get this too, like, do you get friends and family or even clients calling you like, I have this going, I have a urinary tract infection. What do I do? Or I have like, a respiratory infection or anything, or I have heartburn. So we have this home apothecary guide that has links to, supplements we like, but even just like home remedy tools that you can make, like to treat an ear infection, garlic and olive oil, and put it in a cotton ball, So we always want to like educate our clients and then have them leave and, be able to know what to do, like have their own little like at home apothecary, like, oh, this supplement can help with this lifestyle, habit can help with this. So it's, we generally see clients for a year. Sometimes we've had clients that just stay on our continuity program for indefinitely. And we check them every few months, but the goal is to educate and empower, and to not have them rely on us, because they have learned so much by working with us that they know what to do.
Very cool. Very cool. I think it's really important. I use this analogy sometimes for what you're talking about as far as like learning, these a little more advanced health concepts to take care of yourself. But it's like, if you went to your mechanic every time, and every time you came back, your car didn't work or it would break in another week, like you'd start becoming probably a little handy, with cars. Back in older generations, that was more common. Nowadays, that's more rare. But it's kind of the same thing with health. Like, enough people are just taking big hits to their health, and it's affecting quality of life, that people need a little more skill sets around that, like to learn how to do it. And I think we used to have that. There's like the classic, grandma knows what to do, or these, old remedies at home in the medicine cabinet. We kind of lost that over time, and now have a new set of health challenges in our modern world. So I think that's amazing that you all are giving the education and equipping people to do it, because it really is a lifelong thing. And it's a huge gift in the long run, like I'd said before, just in being confident and knowing how to keep your body in tip-top shape, so you can enjoy life and focus on the things that matter to you.
Right. Yeah. And exactly, enjoy your life. Like, I just went on vacation last week. I was in Mexico for a week, and I ate things that I normally don't eat. I probably ate my weight in guacamole and chips. Those are like that's my downfall. I love chips and salsa, and like tacos. We had tons of tacos, and I took a lot of digestive enzymes with me. I took a binder, and I also got up and I got sunlight in my eyes every morning. I was on the beach, so it was easy to do that. And I worked out every single day. So it's all about balance. And I'm at the place in my health journey where I can go do that. Like, I'm very excited to do a coffee enema tonight, and I am a little bloated today, but it's okay. I know what to do. I put my castor oil pack on as soon as I went to bed last night. It's just, I can enjoy myself. And then I just come back to, and I don't look at any of this as like I'm so restricted, or my diet is so restricted. I love what I eat. I eat good food. I eat good, real, whole foods. So I don't feel like my lifestyle is like, it just is. It makes me feel good. I love taking care of myself. So, and all of this is really interesting to me, and I feel better. So
yeah. I mean, that's it right there. It's like this saying, if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. I was like, is that ever true? And it's to feel like your full energy, your full self, your full personality is just an amazing feeling, and you're worth it.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah, that's for sure.
Lynette, where could people find more about you, your practice? It sounds like you have a program you run. Can you tell people where to find you?
Yes. vitalityredefined.com is our website, and we are on Instagram at Vitality Redefined. We're on TikTok, all Vitality Redefined. So it's super, super easy to find us. And then on our website, we have we have options for working with us. We do have our extensive 6-month root cause program. Usually we start there by running labs to see what you need, kind of like that. You talked about a mechanic. Like, a lot of people are like, well, how much does it cost to work with you? And we need to get information first. We need to have that initial consultation, maybe run some labs, because it's like a mechanic doesn't know what it's going to cost to fix your car, or like what it's going to entail to fix your car, unless it can get under the hood and take a look. So we also just launched a jumpstart program. So that's all about opening up your drainage pathways. So that's a really cool, very affordable for right now. It's only $37, and it's 3 days of emails directly, that go straight into your inbox with videos and resources for things, how to help with constipation, heartburn, getting your bile flowing, your lymph open, all of those things that we start clients on. So even people who go through the Jumpstart program, if they do choose to work with us eventually, will already be kind of ahead of the game. So it's all at vitalityredefined.com, but we have different options for people to work with us. And then, that initial consultation too, you talked about this. It's really important to find, there's a lot of natural health practitioners out there. And like you said, you saw many of them until you found one that resonated with you. And I always say that initial consultation that we have, it's it's an interview for both of us. It's like, are you a good fit for us? Are we a good fit for you? And is this gonna, you have to kind of connect with, I think that connection piece with your clients is really, really important. So.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing all of your wisdom with us.
This is really fun. Thank you so much.
Hey there. I hope you enjoyed this episode and that you feel you're walking away wiser than before. I want to bring you even better episodes in the future. One way you can make sure that happens is by rating this podcast. The more of you who rate this podcast positively, the better guests I can bring you. Since you and I both know you're not going to do this later, I'll walk you through the 10-second process right now. All you have to do is follow along. Take out your phone and unlock it. Open up Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever app you listen on, and search for Wiser Than Before Podcast and click on the show. In Apple Podcasts, you have to scroll down towards the bottom, past the most recent episodes. When you get to the ratings and reviews section, click on the blank stars to rate. In Spotify, beneath the logo and name of the show, you'll see 3 horizontal dots. They're just to the right of the bell and settings icons. Click those 3 dots, and the second option is to rate the show. Hit the blank stars and fill them in. All done. You can cross that off your to-do list and start looking forward to even better episodes in the future. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week, even wiser than before.